You've always dreamt of owning a superbike, haven't you? Well, today you can choose from the world's most powerful, the fastest, the most expensive superbikes from across the world right here in India today. So buying a superbike that you've dreamt of has become easier, but enjoying it to the fullest? Not so much. It depends on your access to a GP spec racetrack. And for most of us who ride on weekends at places like this, well, things can be difficult. But there might be a way to live your dream and enjoy it to the fullest. How's that? Well, now we have an inline 4-cylinder motorcycle which is about 600 cc's of displacement. This sport bike is from Kawasaki, the Ninja ZX-6R. Globally, this class of motorcycle, which is the mid-displacement sport bike, also known as super sports, has been fading. So, should you be paying attention to this? My answer to that is a simple yes. But why? The ZX-6R costs 4 lakh rupees less than the ZX-10R, and you still get proper big bike looks and proper inline 4-cylinder swag. This fully fed motorcycle gets the Kawasaki Racing Team livery, and while it looks big, it isn't too big either. I would have called it epic if Kawasaki had, like for the rear design, also copied and pasted the ZX-10R's design on the face, which they've actually copied from the Ninja 400. So if you decide to spend a whole lot more for the ZX-6R over the Ninja 400, be prepared to have people ask you this: how's the Ninja 400 doing? This is Kawasaki's racetrack-oriented Ninja ZX-10R's younger sibling. But is it less racy? Well, if you look at the attitude, it's still pretty serious. Look closely and you will see the clip-ons slope downwards like on race bikes. And this lets you hook into corners better. The large seat is roomy, so even taller riders can hop on and be comfortable. But more importantly, it lets you slide back and tuck in. So you get it, right? This is less like Honda's CBR 650F and more like Triumph's Daytona 675, which is discontinued but still holds a legendary status. So this has big boots to fill, and in so many ways, it does. Narrow twisty roads like this is where the track-focused liter class bikes start feeling tiring and heavy. The ZX-6R is magical here. It holds lines like some mid-displacement single-cylinder motorcycle. The sharp rake for the steering, the tight wheelbase let it flip from side to side. Fast and fun. There are so many small things that feel so right. The suspension soaks up broken roads perfectly. For every kind of corner, you can hug the bike just right. The wide tank, the large and sturdy heel plates are super. So, the more experienced riders will have a blast on this. But the ZX-6R won't scare away the others. Because of its forgiving handling, it will encourage them to dig deeper. The Bridgestone Battle Axe S22s can take a lot of the credit for the confidence given. The superb Nissan brakes also get a solid thumbs up for superb braking performance. So what makes the 6R special? Simple. For most of us who are going to be riding our bikes outside of a racetrack, in the everyday conditions is this smaller motorcycle that's offering the bigger fun quotient. And if you decide to take it to a racetrack, you won't need a MotoGP spec track to enjoy it. And once there, you will need to firm up the fully adjustable front forks a little bit. You could say that only 3 levels of traction control is too little, but they seem to work well, and there are 2 power modes for the engine. Alright, the engine. 16,000 RPM. This engine just sings all the way there, and it makes its 136 PS of power earlier in the rev range at 13,500 RPM. All the way through, it just flies. 0 to 160 is just a tenth slower than the more powerful Ducati 959 Panigale. Now the quick shifter, it's only available for upshifts, but it just blitzes through them. And it is also super easy to switch on or off. And while you would enjoy revving this engine up, you don't need to rev it hard all the time. The update that Kawasaki brought to the ZX-6R last year ensured that it gave you better tractability at low revs too. So even in these hairpin turns, you can leave it in a gear higher than expected and just throttle it out. Our tests show that in 4th gear, in the 40 to 80 km/h run, it is one of the quickest motorcycles in this space. But there is one hiccup. Quite literally, it is a hiccup. When you're in a corner, waiting to hit the apex and open the throttle, you'll find when you do, the power comes on with a jerk. And if you're not smooth with your lines, it'll be all the more annoying. So it is something that you have to get used to. And the other thing that you could get used to, the question is whether you can, is living with this super sport. When you're riding around in the city, the quick shifter will help because it lets you shift up from upwards of 2,500 RPM. Also, the engine lets you pull from really low RPMs. In 6th gear, you can go as low as 18 km/h. And to make it feel smoother still, you can shift into low power mode. This softens the throttle response and limits power to 65% of the peak power. As you would expect of a Kawasaki, heat is managed quite well. If you commute in the city, you will end up feeling some heat on your thighs and ankles. But still, this is surprisingly lesser than what you would have expected from a motorcycle like this. Fuel efficiency is impressive, returning a lot better than we expected. The suspension soaks up potholes like it was meant to be a commuter. And it has the ground clearance to keep its belly clean even over our horrible speed breakers. The headlights are pretty strong too. The low beam could do with a bit more brightness, but it is an impressive setup. The instrument cluster won't wow you. Today, in a world of LCDs, this digital display feels a little simple, but it has all the essentials. Shorter riders though will find the 830mm seat height to be a bit high and will make the going a bit difficult while making U-turns or parking. Living with it, you might have some fundamental issues on hand, or rather on seat, because the pillion seat isn't there. You could get one from the aftermarket, but there are no foot peg hangers like this on this side, and getting them mounted would also be an issue. The rider's seat, soft and cushy, but the seating position is aggressive. Thankfully not as painful as some of the leader class motorcycles, but it will demand fitness from you or will make you fitter. Anything else you could complain about? Well, ride-by-wire and an IMU would have made cornering ABS and more sophisticated traction control possible. There could have also been an up and down quick shifter, a lap time or two. But then there's the price. So 10.5 lakh rupees for this inline 4-cylinder 636cc properly sporty motorcycle in my books is incredible value. Sure, it could have done with a bit more features for that wow aspect, but the motorcycle itself feels special. And that's because of how it is fast and fun for all kinds of riders in all kinds of situations on a racetrack and more importantly off it. So if you're looking to turn your dream into a reality and thinking of getting a sport bike, we'd suggest you think small to go big on fun.